Hey everyone, it's Claire again. I'm just, getting in on to day 2 of my blog. I'm still here in New York. This is my last day here, and the Institute starts up in a few minutes. So I just thought I'd take some time and reconnect and do my next video. I thought today I would talk a little bit about what I plan on doing with this video blog. And the first thing I plan on doing is just talking about my experiences. And one of the things I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to check in about how I'm feeling and how things are going for me and how that relates to my bipolar disorder or how it doesn't, because it's not like my whole life is about that. But then the other thing I thought I would do is just talk a little bit about sort of historically my experiences through my life, as well as then also topics that come up for me when I think about it and things that I've been sort of reading about or trying to work on or understand. So this morning I'm feeling pretty rough. I was out late last night with Sue Caulfield. Hi, Sue. We had a great time sitting around and talking about essay commits and talking about mental health and activism and all kinds of amazing things. And so I was just really appreciative to have that space. But I did get in pretty late and I had to be up pretty early. So pardon me if I'm sounding a little bit rough, but just going to push through it. So anyway, with regards to my bipolar disorder specifically, I'm actually in a place right now of kind of a lull in terms of where I am in like sort of a cycle. As long as my life is relatively stable, I do go through bipolar cycle experiences. And maybe 3 weeks ago, I was pretty manic. And so at this point, I've kind of come down from that and I'm in a sort of a feels like a very normal, quote, normal space. And so, that's kind of what's going on for me with that today. But anyway, I'm Claire. I'm 34 and I live in Corvallis, Oregon. I work at Oregon State University. I work with an office called the Human Services Resource Center. We support students experiencing poverty, hunger, homelessness, and food insecurity. And I say all that just to say, I love my job and I love my work, and I'm probably going to end up talking about it a lot. And also, I think one of the things that working at HSRC has really linked me into is a lot of language around social justice and social justice issues, which are things that I had cared about, but really, once again, didn't have language for. And so, I'm definitely planning on talking about mental health and how it intersects with social justice. But for today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my diagnosis. So I'm diagnosed with bipolar 2, and have no intention of really like reading you definitions or anything like that. If you want to, just go ahead and Google it. And the diagnosis was about 2.5 years ago, and it took me about 6 months after the diagnosis for my therapist to convince me to go on medication. And so, yes, I do take medication. I take it every day. It's called Lamictal. It's actually been an amazing thing for me and a really good decision. So I've been taking that for about 2 years. And I don't know if I've always been bipolar, but I will say that as a small child, I didn't sleep a whole lot. That my parents noticed, really intense activity and really low levels of activity, but a lot of it was just sort of thought of as, hey, this is a normal way that kids experience the world. And so nothing about my life has ever been so extreme to say, wow, what's going on is wrong. There's something absolutely abnormal with this. And so one of the reasons that I sort of recognized that maybe I do need to go and speak with somebody was just that, like, intense situations impacted me very, very strongly. And I would become very depressed. I would really struggle to the level where people would be concerned. And also, I was sort of looking at the world around me, looking at my life, looking at people, and recognizing that nothing I've ever done has been consistent, and wanting to demonstrate and to find some level of consistency for myself in the world, consistent in staying in a job for more than a couple years, consistent in staying in an apartment for more than a couple of months, consistent in relationships. And so I went to therapy mostly because I wanted to start talking about this inability to be consistent. And through that process, my therapist started asking me questions about how how I was feeling when I made changes in my life, when I chopped off all my hair, or when I said I quit a job or drove across the country, because I would make these massively intense, like broad brush decisions with very little thought or planning, and just this very decisive, all right, I'm doing this. And then I would just go do it, sometimes to the detriment of my own financial situations, my own comfort levels. And to me, that was just absolutely a normal way to be. And yet I still really wanted to, I mean, to be successful and maybe say, hey, like, I'm going to stay in this job to 5 to 6 years. That idea, absolutely insurmountable. To exercise regularly week after week after week versus exercising a whole ton and then stopping just didn't make sense to me. To sleep every night consistently, to do things as simple as brush my teeth every night consistently, to be in a relationship over time and not continually break up or get back together with people. These are all things that I could not do. And so, that was part of that learning process and talking with my therapist. And then finally the therapist, convinced me, maybe you should take some testing. And I came out very strongly in the bipolar space. And so then after that, it's like, okay, we're fairly certain this is going to be your diagnosis, and yet we don't know what's up with that. We do not know if you're bipolar 1, if you're bipolar 2, if maybe you just have some sort of, hypomania, like what's going on. And so we then, went through a lot of questions. I read a lot of stuff on websites, and we finally arrived at the diagnosis, and I started taking meds. I'm going to talk a little bit about my life after meds. Maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, that's sort of the general story about how I got my diagnosis. I most definitely want to talk about how it feels for me to where I needed to make those decisions, but I think I'll save that for another day. So yeah, once again, this is day 2, and I'm going to go on in and do my research institute. So y'all have a great day.